Alright, before I get started on what's news, if you notice my facial expression seem like it's a bit of agony, it's because I just got over a nasty virus. And it's not like one of those cold viruses, something more serious. So in case you're wondering why I didn't do any blogs or any updated videos, it was because of that reason. I'll explain more in a personal diary because it was very, very serious. And needless to say, even though I finally got this nice little antibiotic pills, this thing is still beating the hell out of me. So, forgive me if I do sound like a little bit off or sound like I'm a little bit angry, which I am. And I need to say, one of the stories that I'm going to be talking about didn't exactly make me any happier. And with that being said, I might as well get to some of the stories I want to talk about, especially one that I have right here. This story angered me, but it's for a different reason, and I'll explain that as I go on. But basically, there's something going on in New York. A spirit hearing before this New York City's Value Shape Division are proposing to criminalize the purchase of knockoff goods. Now, there is a huge surge, especially in Canal Street, especially in areas where tourists is pretty much on a hotspot, where knockout purses and other items that normally goes for anywhere between $200 to $400, even $1,000, are being sold in the streets for $5, $10, $15, $20. These are called knockoffs, of course. These are not the real thing, but they're pretty much imitators. What the council is proposing is making a new law where if anyone is caught buying, not selling, buying these items, can go to jail for up to a year plus fines. According to the according to the article, that says residents in Chinatown and Chelsea are seeking to rid their neighbors of hawkers selling bogus merchandise. Squares off with the city officials who feared such a bill would scare off shoppers who buy legitimate goods. I just think it's a dumb law. I'm just going to call it right and say it. I think it's a dumb law. To me, it really holds no bearing if they really are serious. And by the way, police officers and the feds know who these people are. This is not something that they're not hiding. They're right in the open. You can walk down some of these streets now in Chinatown, or not even in Chinatown, and see the item, and you can even tell. And I got news for you. Some of the people, especially tourists, know that. They know it. They just want to buy it just for the sake of having something that's named after that. It's not like these tourists are stupid and saying, oh, this is the real thing. I can't believe I got this much money. No, they know what they're purchasing. They know the difference between the bogus one and the good ones. And they know which stores to get it. Rockefeller Center, 49th Street and 5th Avenue, there's a place that sells $500 purses, $500 tote bags. It's a very crowded place, but you need money to go in there. And if you don't have the money, you might as well just keep walking. But they do sell those purses. It's at Rockefeller Plaza, and you can get it from there. So again, everybody knows this. Even the tourists who have only been here the very first time know where to go. And if they don't, they have no problem asking questions to. So this whole law just don't make any sense. If anything, they should talk to the people who make these bags to maybe lower it to a reasonable price. I'm just saying, but people do buy it. It says here the bill, which has yet to go before the council, will make a Class A misdemeanor to purchase these bags up to a year and a fine of $1,000. It's illegal to produce or sell knockoffs, a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison. And yet, from the time I've been here, from the time of the dark periods of New York to now, these bogus items are still being sold in these stores. And it's not like they're hiding it. It's out in the open. Everybody knows about this, including the police department. That's the whole thing. And I think the thing is, and this is what I'm going by, is that as long as they're paying taxes, I don't think New York City cares. I really don't. I don't even think the people who's buying it cares unless they really thought it was the legitimate item and they felt they got ripped off. But it really all depends. Most of the people who I talk to, and I do business as a ticket agent for a tour bus company, pretty much knows what the deal is between the real goods and the fake ones, especially when the name comes up. This is a very stupid um, bill proposal that's coming out, especially since it's obviously clear that they do have laws in the books to prevent this. Or if you really are serious about taking these knockoffs off the street, just enforce the laws you got now. Don't add another one that's going to be beyond punishable for citizens who is buying these goods. Now they have to face jail time. It doesn't make any sense to me, and that's the best way I can describe it. If you really are serious about this and you really thought this is a very concern, just enforce the laws you got now. Don't make new laws knowing you can't enforce this law. And by the way, there ain't no police department in this city going to enforce that law. They got other better things to do, other important things to deal with than enforcing a law that's really is petty. And really only serves the purposes of big businesses who is trying to get as much money as they can for a price that is pretty much overpriced to begin with. But surprisingly, I'm not mad at this. And I probably wouldn't even make it a big deal, with the exception of one thing. This is page 9 of the Daily News. Okay, this is the paper who reported this. I would expect this to be something minor in my paper, something like pretty much a small headline or something that's going to be in the index that if you want to look at it, that's fine. But no, this is not. Out of all the stuff that's going on in this city, the situation with the 911 being sued because they changed shift and didn't bother answering their phone when a dying girl was laying on the street, from the stop and frisk law that is out in Supreme Court hand and will be decided very shortly. Even to the basketball game, the infamous Game 4, which now the series is tied to a piece, which I do believe is going to go to Game 7, and I do believe that if Miami have a chance to win, they're going to have to win Game 5, period. No, that's not in the front page. This here made the front page of this paper. Out of all the stuff that they could have put on the front page, they went with this. Buy a fake bag, go to jail. I saw this, and a friend of mine gave me this paper. We meet a couple of times in the cafe at Starbucks, and he was like, he was finished reading the paper, and I just stared at it. I just like, this made the front page. And I was in denial. I was like, this is no way this article made the front page. Out of all the stuff that's going on, this made the front page. I am disappointed at the Daily News. I am angry that this was the front page of my paper. On the sidebar, I talk about the Mets. Talk about some free family fun. They normally do a contest. But no, this is the front page of the newspaper. And you take a look at all the stuff they have here. Again, they were talking about the NYCHA big face the axe because of what has happened, corruption in the in City Hall. What a surprise. We also have, the stop and frisk situation. Obama is keeping up the battle in Newtown. You have all these things coming in. You have, hey, holders, get a clue, leave the city alone. This is a very important article. The stop and frisk. No, this made the front page. Page 9, but this made the front page. Normally, when we have front page news, it get immediate attention. You get it like number one. When you see it, you turn a page. Page 3, that's when you get the article. Sometimes it's a 2-page spread. It's a very big deal. This made the front page, and it didn't even get a 2-page spread. Was it really a slow day yesterday? I know it rained, but you really thought this was actually big news? I understand that it's ridiculous that a person who buys these bags can go to jail up to 1 year, which, by the way, I don't think is ever going to have a chance of passing at all. I just think they're throwing out there just to throw it out there. But there ain't no way in hell that anybody from anywhere, even Bloomberg, who is very cautious and environmental and keeping protecting big businesses, would be caught dead passing this. He probably would just put it on his shelf and just forget about it. And by the time he's out of office, somebody's going to take it and throw it away. That normally does happen. But this made the front page, and I'm just baffled how this made the front page and how, out of all the news Just got everyone's attention. And believe me when I say this, a couple people saw this, just laughed. They didn't take this seriously. They laughed. They said, really? Hell, the guy actually took a picture of this because it was so hilarious how this made news. And here's the thing. The strange thing enough, if the Post would have done this, I would actually believe it because the Post do put up stupid stuff on their front page. Many people don't even consider it real news anymore. They consider it as a tabloid, which is why a lot of people feel they're in serious financial trouble right now. I think there's other reasons for them that they're in financial trouble, but I'll leave that alone for the time being. But I never thought I'd see the hometown paper, Daily News, put this on their front page. Wow. I'm lost for words. I'm really lost for words. This is what media has become now. This is what media has really become. We're putting junk articles in our papers and leaving the more serious ones out, or not giving them any attention whatsoever. Thank God for certain internet news reporters, because at least with them I can say they at least tell like it is. Whether you agree with how they report it or not, at least they tell like it is. And I try to keep it balanced between both the more liberal and the more conservative, and get a fresh idea from both sides. But my newspapers, man, they gotta do something better than this. They gotta do something better than this. You can't continue to put stuff like that in your front page and expect people to buy it. Because keep in mind, the paper business is a dying trend. It's barely hanging on by a thread. And them putting this stuff in their papers is just not helping matters. Now, I said I praise the paper business when they do a good job reporting something, but I will also put them down when I felt that something that was irrelevant to the overall means of what's going on in the world. And they had no hesitation to tell you. See page 9. I went through 3 other reports. Some didn't really care. Others, very important. And again, if they want to report this, I have no problem with that. But it's not a front page news. It really isn't. And that's my feeling on that. It's not front page news. And to me, oh boy. Oh man. Well, just keep my stuff on the internet. That's all I got to say until further notice. In any case, I'm not going to continue blasting this news. That actually was kind of pleasant with them, maybe because the pain is finally going down a little bit. Yeah, I want to talk about something else that's been going on in the newspapers and also in the media. This is actually did make front page news, and deservedly so, because this is something that had happened, and two sad tragedies happened. A teenage girl, they describe, hit and killed, I believe, a 4-year-old girl in New York, and the family is devastated because the teenager fled the scene, and she was in a high-speed chase with the police officers. But the story doesn't end there, and I mentioned this before this rant, that there's now reports coming out that there was a 911 call that never got through, and the reason why it didn't get through wasn't because it was busy, wasn't because the operator was overwhelmed, but because there was a change in shift. And because there was change in the shift, nobody was around to pick up the phone. A fatal flaw. And the family, from what I understand, is now suing. This is something when I read and when it was reported by Channel 7, as well as both the news. I don't know if the Post did it. I know USA Today had reported something on it. It shook my head, because this is the one thing that should never be an issue. And look, we have shift changes. Operations do have those kind of shift changes where the people operator have to stand down and the new operator has to come in and take over, and it takes time to get done. But I always assumed, which they don't have everybody leaving at the same time. And that's something that is very scary. If everybody's clocking out at the same time, you're leading it wide open to a very serious situation, and that's what happened. Uh, Obviously, everybody was clocking out, and there was not even enough, or there was not no one on the boards to answer the calls, and that's something that the city should have had it planned from the beginning. Do I think that it would have made a difference and the ambulance would have got there sooner? They probably would have saved the child. I don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no. I don't know. I don't know how severe the injuries were. But needless to say, need to say that the 911 call that didn't came through didn't help matters. And that's the whole thing. It didn't help matters. And for that kind of mistake to go unnoticed, because God knows how long this has been going on, and you know New York City is going to defend themselves on this. But the point being is that if this is true, and they actually had no one on standby or no one to make sure that one half of the staff stay on while the other half is transitioning, then they do the same thing at that, then that is a flaw that has to be fixed immediately. They need to do that immediately because you cannot afford to do that. There's too many lives at stake here, too many things going on. You cannot have the operating system on a complete shutdown like that. You just can't. And New York City is a big city. Any city, for that matter, big or small, needs to have their 911 operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without any fear that they pick up that phone and you get a busy signal because everybody's changing shift and probably will not be available for 10, 20, or even 30 minutes. That's too dangerous. 1 minute alone is dangerous. I'm not here to bash the operators. I know they have a lot on their plate. I know they have a lot to deal with. To me, it's a very stressful job trying to calm down on someone, especially when a situation happens. There are also some bad ones, of course, who take it in their own hands and not report an incident, and it turned out to be was actually true, especially among children who calls them up and tells them what's going on. We had stories with that, but overall, in general, it's not a bashing. It's just that protocol needs to be straightened to make sure this doesn't happen again, because that's something that should never have been an issue. The last thing I wanted to hear on a Wednesday was hearing that the operator wasn't responsive because they were changing shifts and there was no one there to have. So that's something that I believe that the mayor, the commissioner, the fire department, everyone needs to come together and say, hey, look, we need to have a contingency plan for that situation to happen because they cannot continue to go through that. So that's one of the stories that's also happening. Now for the stop and frisk, it had their closing arguments. Both sides had their closing arguments, and now we'll see what the Supreme Court of New York will decide on. It was a very bitter, brutal battle. Bloomberg is very, very keen on keeping this stop and frisk law going. A lot of people said it's discrimination at its worst. Protests from police departments who said that they only target certain minorities, black and Hispanics, just talked about it. Other people believe it keeps the guns safe, it keeps the guns off the streets, even though their statistic is not on their side because they have not made any arrests or any confiscation of anyone who they stop and frisk have guns. Also, there's been reports that the reason why they do it make them think twice before even carrying a gun, which I'm not buying. And it really is shown that they only target those specific people, but not target the others like white and Jewish. I have not really tackled this issue as much as I should. Granted, even though there was other stuff, I should have tackled this issue a lot because it is a local news, but it is not just local that I'm worried about. It's what happens internationally that I'm concerned. And I'm just going to say this. Bloomberg, in terms of how the police have conducted themselves, hasn't really done a great job of late in terms of these more drastic measures to keep New Yorkers safe. And I explain why. A few years ago, there was a big serious situation where the New York City went outside their jurisdiction, going to New Jersey to spy on Muslims. I felt it was justified, even though the Jersey police was not happy about it because they did it without even talking to them or confronting to them. You're going to another state and you're doing this kind of stuff on on their home turf, which is something you never do. It's disrespecting the police department there. It's disrespecting even the mayor or the governor. You have to have some kind of form of communication, and for some reason, the police department felt that they didn't need that, and they just went over there anyway to spy on people that they had no evidence or have done anything wrong. It didn't show the New York City Police Department in a good light, and rightfully so. Christie was upset about that, and rightfully so. The New Jersey Police Department was upset about it, and rightfully so. You stepped over their heads and did something without even confronting them or even telling them about it, so that way you can possibly do a joint venture to scope out suspected terrorists. But you didn't do that, and that's the whole thing that I really. It's almost like they playing rogue with the system, and that's something you don't ever want to do. You get into a lot of trouble for that. People get into a lot of trouble for that because you don't know what the mindset of these police officers are. They can do anything, say anything, plant anything, and who to say that they're wrong unless you have absolute proof that they did what other people say they did. The same thing with stop and frisk. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I understand why they put this on here. I'm not going to even try and sugarcoat it. A lot of neighborhoods are very tough neighborhoods, okay? A lot of places that some of these cops go to has a high crime rate, all right? The no snitch situation doesn't make anything even better. These guys who I will say I have my gripe with the police, but I don't know there's a lot of other police officers who are very good police officers who want to do their job and go home to their loved ones. And that's the key. They want to go home to their loved ones. Every day they're out on the streets. It's a day that they can be one bullet away or one perpetrator away from being put to the ground. That's how much fear they have out there. People want to believe that it's all rosy for the police officers and that they're just bad guys. No, there are some good cops there, but they're scared to death as to the inevitable. Get into a shootout, checking for, a guy who was speeding. Next thing you know, that guy has a gun and wants to shoot him. All this stuff is a great possibility. And they want to go home. They have loved ones. They have people who care for them. They have children they want to, raise with. So the mentality of, I don't know what this guy have is there. Especially in the neighborhood where, let's be honest, who don't support the cops to begin with. Now, I'm not saying that's not all the neighborhood's fault. There are some reasons why there is a lack of support, especially in the city, for the police. A lot of them do harass teenagers. A lot of them do stop and frisk almost just for no reason. A lot of people just pull up on someone and say, hey, look, come here. Why? Some of these cops even are willing to go besides from reading your Miranda rights just to bring you in over some petty stuff. And this is a thing where it's pretty much a tug of war between, do you want to really respect the police or do you hate the police for doing what they do? I am against stop and frisk for this reason. Stop and frisk gives it easier for the cops to be looked at as racist pricks. There's been tape recording about this, about who the police head, not the police officers, what the police head want to target for stop and frisk program, and they make no bones about it. They want Hispanics and they want blacks. That's it. And they make it very clear why they want young black men, Hispanic men, as part of that list, as a high list, because they believe they're the most violent of everyone living in the city. So they will target them, and they will target them more aggressively. I'm sorry, that's racial profiling. And racial profiling should not be accepted anywhere for any reason. All right? And that's the whole thing, that no matter what the mayor may say or do or think this law can do, that's what it does. You're racially profiling a group of minorities just because of what you may think might happen. And again, there hasn't been no arrests. There hasn't been any found concealed weapons on anyone who has been frisked. And it becomes a question of when it's too much, because when that was implemented, it went up. It kept going up and up and up. When people were saying, "Oh, enough already," and some are more aggressive than others. Stop and frisk should not have happened. There should be protocols going in. And but that's the whole thing, especially for young black men who just walking down the street, minding their own business, want to head home. Next thing you know, he's getting stopped. He's getting put to the car. And this is the thing that really I think that the police is failing to realize. When you frisk somebody like that in public, and people are walking by, no matter whether they're black, white, or whatever, it gives them a bad picture. The first thing they're gonna say is, "What did that thug do? Why is he being frisked? Who did he rob? What did he do?" They're not gonna stop and think, "Well, oh, he's being searched." There's gonna be an image that's out there, and if your idea is to scare the young ones, guess what's gonna happen? You're not gonna scare them. You're gonna make them hate you guys even more. Where if a case of real crime's gonna come, they're not gonna call you because to them, you already proved that you're not on their side, and you're not looking to protect them. And basically, you're giving the bad guys even more reason to say, don't snitch on us, because we keep things in house. Don't do this, don't do that. The cops ain't your friends. They're just looking to put you in the ground. And then a lot of people think that way. Mostly because of this. It's a little train of thought. I mean, you gotta be mindful of that. And the mayor is very stubborn when it comes to these things. The mayor is very, very stubborn when it's come to me. The administration within the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms, both Giuliani has been stubborn with these things because they wanted to make a safer New York, and they have done that. I'm not going to sit there and say they haven't. New York has never been safer in all the 30 years I have been here. A lot of times when it was in the 80s, it wasn't. So I can't sit there and say they haven't done their job in making New York City safe. They have. But at the same time, they have done things that, although you may think it's a good idea, it's actually not. For instance, on the Giuliani, it became a police state to the point where the police was doing stuff that even people saying, enough already. You're shooting people, and there's no consequence for that. You're saying it's a tragedy. When you know if that would have happened by accident to a cop, God forbid, every squadron will be after them, and they don't want to hear there was an accident. They don't. They will be busting down doors, going every project building, looking for that one suspect. Believe me, I've seen it happen. My sister's door got banged in for someone who wasn't there. They caught the suspect, but they went on pretty much most wanted list. Cops in the air, cops all over the place. They wanted this guy, and why? Because he shot what he thought was a drug dealer, was ended up being a police cop who was undercover. So this is the thing that I want them to be mindful of. And look, again, I'm not saying that the cops have every right to be afraid. No, they're human, right? They have a right to be afraid because to continue, each day they come out there, it's not a guarantee they're gonna come back home with the job they have. And to me, the fact that they are so underpaid, some of these cops are, doing what they do to keep us safe from the streets, is mind-boggling. Cops in New York City are very underpaid. It's unbelievable how underpaid they are. Than the fire department. And those are the two guys who risk their lives more than anything else. Yeah, we got baseball players that make $100 million. Not even putting up half the effort of hitting a home run or getting the base hit. Something's not right with this pitcher, guys. I'm just saying. Well, it's up to 28 mark. Should I talk about this Newtown thing? I'll leave it for a separate video. Let me see here. See if Daily News have redeemed themselves with that front page garbage they put on there. Now the hell would I talk about it? It says here in the article, which by the way it is actually today's paper, which would be tomorrow's papers, tomorrow's news, but still to talk about it. It says BAM keeps up the battle in Newtown. Washington, no new federal gun laws have been passed in the 6 months since the crazed gunman murdered 20 children and 6 adults in Newtown, Connecticut. But President Obama and Vice President Biden have encouraging words Tuesday for the family members of two of the victims. Meeting in the Oval Office with relatives of Sandy Hook's elementary school teachers, Lauren I believe it's Rusano and Victoria Soto. The Vice President urges the grieving gun control advocates not to give up their fight once the family members said they just wanted to let us know that as we are not giving up, they are not giving up. said Soto. Sisters Curly Soto, after her meeting with Obama and Biden, they said that they are in for a long haul. Yes, they are. Um, I'll continue reading. It's not that long. The White House meeting was one of the series of events this week that Newtown families and gun control activists used to try to keep the pressure on Congress ahead of Friday's 6-month anniversary of the shooting. Advocates are prepared for gun control events in at least 10 states during the anniversary, including day-long ceremonies in Newtown. After the meeting at the White House, the Newtown relatives had a longer meeting with Biden in his office where he discussed major pieces of legislation that he hopes sharpens. As Senator Soto said, Biden's message was this: "It is going to take a while," Soto said, and a while that it is. And I said this before. I probably said this before in a blog. I know I mentioned it. Bear with me for a minute. Okay. I thought when I heard what they was trying to do in rushing these bills to office, I thought it was a mistake. That was their first mistake to begin with, because they really was rushing a lot of these bills without actually looking at the bigger picture. And when you have bills that can really change the shape, not only with the Constitution, but just the laws that's already been put in place in these states, some strong in others, some weak in others, you got to make sure that A, the laws are genuine, B, is for the right reasons, and C, you can actually enforce it. And although some of the stuff that was thrown out there, I thought it was actually kind of nice, I didn't think it could be enforced, and I didn't think they actually had a well thought out plan. So when I heard it died in office, it didn't shock me, it didn't stun me. It just said, okay, it died in office, but it doesn't mean it's over. They really have to sit down and actually talk about it. Now, as for the NRA, I don't even know why people listen to them. They are a corporation who manufactures guns. And for reasons that still bothers me, they have powers as like the senators. And when you have a gun lobby like that, that's dangerous. Okay, because they don't care about compromise. They just want to make sure that they get their guns sold by any means necessary. There has been a controversy in Florida again, which I might as well talk about it in this video because pretty much the Hans Zimmerman case, because I had to talk about it. But there's been a controversy where a guy was let go after killing his wife lover, even though the guy was not armed. He just killed him, and for some reason, stand your ground actually was in his favor. How's that possible? Somebody tell me, please. Now I'm confused. Somebody please tell me. If you got a video on that, please tell me. But this is the kind of stuff and they kept passing other laws similar to this that either weakens gun law or just basically erase it altogether. And people are so head up because they want their guns. They feel that they're the only way to protect themselves. I say it like this. To me, it's a false sense of security because during the last 8 months, I've been reading stories of people who, by the way, was big time vloggers in YouTube, either gotten killed or getting shot at, and they haven't shot a single gun. They haven't shot a single bullet. And these guys were lawyers, prosecutors, a guy who had a gun, who had a video, who made videos about guns and how to use it. All these guys have weapons, but yet they still got killed by a firearm. And I know people say, well, it's probably somebody knows. So you just admitted that there is a false sense of security when it comes to firearm. And this idea that if everybody had a gun when that shooting happened in Dark Knight, I got news for you. If everybody had a gun and started shooting around like madmen, it would have been a lot worse. And I got news for you. Cops ain't going to ask questions of who's the bad guy. They're going to start shooting at them because they see guns. And that's the whole thing. I think that they needs to be serious, talk about some resolutions and ask them what they can and what they can enforce, because a lot of stuff that was being thrown out there, it just was just being thrown out there without really actual thinking. And I always say, you don't want to pass a law without actually sitting down, reading what it says, word for word and then say, okay, this may work, but maybe not this part, and refix it. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a long haul. I really do. I think it's gonna be a very long haul, but I think it's necessary. I think it's very, very necessary that they do this, and that's pretty much all I got to say about that. I will keep an eye on this a lot more because it is something that's not going to go away. No matter how much the NRA wants it to go away, it's not going to go away, and nor should it be. This is getting really out of hand. I think people need to stop and realize that, hey, look, as much as we want to keep that amendment going, we cannot have all these deadly weapons out there and think that nothing's going to happen because we're trying to protect ourselves with these weapons. I always said machine guns are not really meant for citizens' hands unless you are a Marine and you're in the armed services, or any kind of military guy for that matter. Yeah, I'm at the 35 mark, guys. I'm gonna stop here, but I'm gonna continue on. So I'm gonna make another video because I really want to talk about the Hans Zimmer. I'll probably make that a 10-minute more video and post it up during the weekend. But for now, this is J77 saying take care, be safe, and I'll see you in part 2.